Listen, I'm going to tell you something about male blindness in relationships that will completely shatter how you see loyalty, commitment, and what you thought was a solid partnership. And before you start thinking this is some bitter rant from a scorned man, understand that what I'm revealing comes from watching hundreds of relationships implode in exactly the same way, following a pattern so predictable it's like watching the same movie on repeat. There's a betrayal happening in relationships right now. Today, maybe in yours, that men are completely blind to until the moment it's already over. And by the time you see it, you're not just losing her, you've already lost her months ago. Maybe years ago. You've been living with a ghost while she's been planning her exit, and you had no idea. You know what's terrifying? The betrayal isn't infidelity. It's not cheating in the traditional sense. It's something far more insidious, far more devastating because it's completely invisible to the male mind. It's the betrayal of silent disengagement, the slow, methodical emotional withdrawal that happens while she's still sleeping in your bed, still saying, I love you, still playing the role of your partner. She's there, but she's not there. Present, but absent. With you, but already gone. And you're walking around thinking everything's fine, maybe a bit rough, but nothing that can't be fixed. Meanwhile, she's been emotionally divorced from you for so long that when she finally announces she's leaving, it feels like it came out of nowhere. But it didn't come out of nowhere. You just weren't seeing the signals because men are wired to miss this specific type of betrayal completely. Let me break down the first layer of this. The fundamental difference in how men and women process relationship endings. When a man decides a relationship is over, he leaves. Simple, direct, done. He might struggle with the decision, feel guilty, take some time, but when he's mentally checked out, his behavior changes dramatically and obviously. He withdraws physically, stops engaging, becomes distant in ways you can see and measure. But women? Women have this capability that's almost supernatural. They can be completely done with you emotionally while maintaining perfect external performance of the relationship. They've already grieved the relationship, already processed the ending, already moved on mentally and emotionally, all while still cooking your dinner and asking about your day. This isn't conscious deception in most cases. It's how female psychology handles the end of pair bonding. She needs to detach emotionally first, completely, before she can detach physically. And that emotional detachment happens in absolute silence, invisible to you, while life continues normally on the surface. I've watched this pattern destroy men who thought they had solid marriages. There was this guy, let's call him Marcus, married 12 years, 2 kids, thought everything was fine. Sure, his wife seemed a bit distant lately, but he figured it was stress, kids, life. She still smiled at family gatherings, still posted photos online, still went through all the motions. Then one Tuesday evening, completely calm, she tells him she wants a divorce. She's done, has an apartment already lined up, talked to a lawyer, has the whole thing planned out. Marcus is standing there in absolute shock because from his perspective, they had a normal marriage with normal problems. But from her perspective, she'd been done for 2 years. 2 years of silent planning, emotional withdrawal, internal processing, all while he was completely oblivious. That's the betrayal. Not that she left, but that she left so long ago and never told him until it was irreversible. You see, yes, women are masters of compartmentalization in ways men fundamentally don't understand. A man in a dying relationship shows signs everywhere. His performance drops. His mood shifts. His physical presence changes. He's visibly unhappy. But a woman can be completely dead inside regarding the relationship while maintaining flawless external functionality. She can be planning her exit while helping you pick out new furniture. Can be emotionally bonded to someone else while still being physically intimate with you. Can have one foot completely out the door while discussing vacation plans. This ability to maintain the performance while being internally done is what makes this betrayal so devastating. You're investing in a relationship that's already over, fighting for something that's already lost, trying to fix something she's already decided is unfixable. And she's letting you do it because she's not ready to leave yet. Maybe financially, maybe logistically, maybe she's just not done processing. But your efforts, your attempts to reconnect, your belief that you can work through this, it's all happening in a relationship that exists only in your mind. Time and again, I see the warning signs that men completely miss because they're not dramatic enough to register as danger. First sign, she stops complaining. This seems like a good thing, right? Finally, peace. No more nagging, no more criticism, no more conflicts about your behavior. But here's the dark truth about that. When a woman stops complaining, she's not satisfied. She's done. Complaints mean she still cares enough to want change. Silence means she's accepted you won't change, and she's made peace with leaving. She's conserving her energy because arguing with you requires investment, and she's no longer invested. I've watched men celebrate this. Finally, she's off my back. Congratulations. She's off your back because she's planning her exit. That relief you feel? That's the calm before your life implodes. Second sign, her future language changes. Listen carefully to how she talks about the future. Does she say we or does she say I? We should renovate the kitchen versus I'm thinking about getting my own place eventually. We should plan a trip versus I want to travel more. This linguistic shift is massive and most men never catch it. She's linguistically removing you from her future before she physically removes you from her life. Her brain has already rewritten the story where you don't exist in the next chapter, and it's leaking out in her language. But men don't track language that carefully. You hear the content, not the pronouns. You hear travel and think she means together. She means alone. But here's where it gets really twisted. The stranger phenomenon. She becomes extremely interested in her appearance suddenly. Loses weight, new clothes, new hairstyle, more attention to grooming. You might think she's doing it for you or for herself. She's not. She's preparing for the dating market. Her mind has already moved to what comes next, and she's getting ready. Or she develops new friend groups you're not part of. Suddenly she's going out more, has activities you're not included in, a whole social life you don't see. She's building her post-you life while still living in your shared space. Or she becomes very focused on financial independence. Suddenly cares about having her own money, her own accounts, her own credit. That's not personal growth. That's exit planning. She's removing the obstacles to leaving. Many people experience this confusion where they think intimacy equals connection. She might still be physically intimate with you regularly, still initiate sometimes, still respond to your advances. Men interpret this as the relationship is fine. But physical intimacy for women can be completely disconnected from emotional investment. She could be maintaining physical relations out of habit, obligation, guilt, or even strategy, keeping you comfortable while she prepares to leave, while feeling absolutely nothing emotionally. I knew this woman who admitted after her divorce that she'd been having sex with her husband for the entire last year of their marriage while being completely emotionally done with him. She said it was easier to maintain the routine than deal with his questions if she suddenly stopped. Think about that. An entire year of physical intimacy while planning an exit. He thought they were working through a rough patch. She was running out the clock. The emotional affair dynamic is another layer most men are blind to. By the time you notice something's wrong, she's often already emotionally bonded to someone else. Not necessarily physically cheating, but emotionally checked out of your relationship and checked into someone else's attention. It could be a coworker, an old friend, someone online, doesn't matter. What matters is she's getting her emotional needs met elsewhere while you're left wondering why she seems so distant. The emotional affair is the gateway. She transfers her emotional investment to this other person first, which makes leaving you psychologically easier because she's not leaving to be alone, she's leaving to be available for this new connection. And because there's no physical evidence, no lipstick on the collar, no suspicious text you can find, You don't see it as betrayal. But it's the deepest betrayal because she's given away the part that actually matters. Here's the darkest truth about this pattern. There's usually a moment, weeks or months before the end, where she tries to tell you. Not directly, because that's not how this works, but through what I call the final plea. She might say something like, I feel disconnected from you, or I don't think you really see me anymore, or I'm not happy. And here's where most men catastrophically fail. They hear this as nagging, as her being dramatic, as temporary emotion. They say, we're fine, you're overreacting, or every couple goes through this, or I'll work on it, but then don't actually change anything. What she's actually saying is, this is your last chance. I'm telling you I'm almost gone. If you don't make massive changes right now, I'm leaving. But she can't say it that directly because she's been socialized not to. So she gives you this soft warning, hoping you'll understand the severity. You don't. You minimize it. And in that moment, in your failure to recognize the crisis, she makes the decision. She's done. The countdown begins. The betrayal is now irreversible because she gave you the chance and you missed it. It happens more often than people realize that men are working on the relationship after it's already dead. She tells you she wants out. You panic. Suddenly, you're everything you should have been all along. Attentive, romantic, present, engaged. You're solving all the problems she complained about for years. And you're confused when none of it matters, when she's unmoved by your changes, when she looks at you with this cold detachment. Why isn't this working? Because you're trying to save a patient that's already died. She grieved this relationship months ago. She cried, processed, accepted, and moved on emotionally. Your sudden transformation doesn't touch her because she's no longer emotionally available to be touched. You're performing for someone who's already emotionally left the theater. It's tragedy watching men pour everything into saving relationships that are already over, not understanding that timing in these situations is everything. Too late is too late, no matter how perfect you become. The financial and legal preparation is another massive tell that men miss completely. If she suddenly wants to know about finances, wants copies of documents, asks about assets, starts organizing paperwork, she's preparing for divorce. If she's asking hypothetical questions about how divorce works, what happens to the house, how custody is determined, these aren't academic interests. She's gathering intelligence. If she mentions talking to a lawyer just to understand our options, those options don't include staying married. But men hear this stuff and think it's paranoia on her part or just being responsible. No, she's building a case, understanding the process, preparing for the legal battle. By the time you realize she was serious, she's already 3 steps ahead in the divorce process. The pattern of creating distance and narrative is psychological preparation for leaving. She starts rewriting the history of your relationship in her mind. Suddenly, everything was always bad. You were always the problem. There are never good times. She tells friends and family this revised version where you're the villain and she's the victim, because she needs external support for leaving and she needs to justify the decision to herself. So she creates a narrative where leaving isn't just understandable, it's necessary and overdue. You'll hear from friends later that she's been complaining about you for years. You had no idea because she wasn't complaining to you. She was building her exit story with everyone else. When the end comes, everyone in her life understands why she's leaving because she's been laying the groundwork for months. Only you're surprised because you were kept out of the narrative construction. Time and again, I see men asking, why didn't she just tell me? She did tell you. You weren't listening. Not to the words she was saying, not to the silence that replaced arguments, not to the changes in her behavior, not to the emotional distance growing between you. Men operate on explicit communication. If there's a problem, tell me directly, we'll fix it. But women communicate relationship dissatisfaction through behavior, through mood, through subtle changes in engagement. When those signals are ignored repeatedly, they stop trying to communicate and start planning to leave. The The betrayal you're experiencing isn't that she didn't tell you. It's that you didn't develop the capacity to hear what she was saying in the language she was speaking. You expected flashing red lights and sirens. She was showing you a slow fade, a gradual dimming, and you interpreted dimness as mood lighting instead of power failure. You see, yes, there's also the social media performance that becomes particularly insidious. I've watched relationships where the worse things got privately, the better they looked publicly. She's posting couple photos, writing loving captions, performing happiness online while being completely checked out at home. Why? Because she's managing perception. She doesn't want to deal with questions yet, doesn't want to explain yet, doesn't want family drama yet. So she maintains the illusion publicly while planning the exit privately. Then when she finally announces the separation, everyone's shocked because they seemed so happy. That public performance is another tell. When the performance becomes more important than the private reality, when she's more invested in how the relationship looks than how it feels, she's already left emotionally. The test is simple, and most men fail it because they don't know to look. Does she still fight with you about real issues? Or have conflicts become superficial or disappeared entirely? Fighting means investment. Peace can mean apathy. Does she include you in future plans beyond the next few months? Or is everything we'll see and I don't know? Does she show jealousy or possessiveness anymore? Or is she completely unbothered by other women's attention to you? Lack of jealousy isn't enlightenment. It's indifference. Does she seek emotional connection with you when she's upset? Or does she handle everything alone or with friends? Where she takes her emotional needs, tells you where her bond is. Does she respond to your bids for connection? When you try to engage, does she engage back? Or are you getting minimal responses, distracted attention, physical presence without mental presence? What makes this betrayal so devastating isn't just that she leaves. It's that she leaves after letting you believe you had time, letting you believe you were still a team, letting you believe the relationship was salvageable. You were living in one reality where you had a partner and problems to work through. She was living in another reality where she had an exit plan and a countdown timer. The cruelty isn't intentional. It's structural. It's how female psychology manages the end of pair bonding. They leave mentally first, completely, then physically. Men do it backwards. Physical departure first, then emotional processing. This fundamental difference in approach is why men are always blindsided. You think you're in a struggling relationship. She knows she's in an ended relationship that just hasn't been announced yet. The impact on men who experience this is catastrophic because it destroys your ability to trust your own perception. If you could miss something this big, what else are you missing? If your partner could be planning an exit while telling you she loves you, what can you believe? This pattern creates profound psychological damage because it's not just the loss of the relationship, it's the loss of confidence in your own judgment. I've watched men become paranoid in future relationships, always looking for signs of betrayal, unable to relax in a trust because they know now how completely they can be fooled. That's the lasting damage of this betrayal. Not just losing her, but losing your faith in your ability to see reality clearly. Many people experience this realization that female loyalty operates differently than male loyalty. A man who's committed is committed until he consciously decides he's not, and that decision is visible in his behavior. A woman who's committed can become uncommitted in complete silence, maintain perfect external loyalty while being internally disloyal, and execute an exit strategy while you believe you're working through temporary problems. This isn't a moral judgment. It's behavioral reality. Understanding this doesn't mean distrusting all women. It means developing the capacity to see the subtle signs, to hear what's not being said, to track behavioral changes that seem minor but are actually massive. The solution isn't paranoia. It's presence and awareness. Most men are absent in relationships while being physically present. You're there, but you're not there. Working, hobbies, friends, screen time, checked out mentally while she's trying to connect. Then you're shocked when she stops trying. You weren't paying attention during the years it mattered. You only started paying attention when she announced the end. By then, attention is irrelevant. She doesn't want you to pay attention anymore. She wants you to be gone so she can start the next chapter she's already written in her mind without you. Here's what you need to understand. This betrayal is only possible when you've been chronically unavailable, chronically dismissive, chronically taking the relationship for granted. She didn't wake up one day and decide to leave. You created the conditions over months and years where leaving became her only viable option. She tried to tell you through complaints, through requests, through pulling away, through that final plea. You didn't listen, didn't change, didn't prioritize the relationship. So she stopped trying and started planning. The betrayal isn't that she left silently. It's that you forced her into silence by not responding when she was still speaking. Understanding this pattern doesn't fix what's already broken. If she's already in the exit phase, the silent disengagement, the emotional divorce, it's likely over. You can't negotiate with someone who's already gone. You can't convince someone to reinvest emotionally after they've fully divested. But understanding this can change how you operate in relationships moving forward. Pay attention to the subtle signals. Track engagement levels. Notice when complaints stop, when future language changes, when emotional connection fades. Don't dismiss her attempts to communicate dissatisfaction as nagging. Treat them as the crisis they are. Because by the time the crisis is obvious to you, it's already over. The betrayal men are blind to isn't the leaving. It's the long, silent process of leaving that happens while you're oblivious, comfortable, assuming you have time. You don't have time. You have right now. And right now, either you're present and engaged and prioritizing the relationship, or you're creating the conditions for a silent departure while you remain blind until it's too late.